Well, we finally have all of the cards revealed for Festival of Legends. Now that we have all the cards, I'm also going to be doing theory crafting videos for each class. If you want to be featured in one of those, use the Google form in the description below. Enter your theory crafted deck to potentially be featured and have a chance to win a tavern pass for the upcoming expansion. Let's get into these cards now. A couple here and there for each class, between 1 and 3 for each class. But let's talk about these Death Knights. We have Death Metal Knight, a 3 mana, 2 blood rune minion. It's a 3 attack, 4 health, undead with taunt. Costs health instead of mana if your hero was healed this turn. Kind of an interesting concept of if you heal, then you can play this, and then essentially you would take some damage. Kind of odd, but I suppose this is an additional just taunt minion that you could play if you're healing anyways. It's an undead, so maybe there's some synergy there. Honestly, I don't think it's all that great. Not really sure if it actually will get played in decks. I think the Blood Death Knight decks are already pretty solid. Not sure if they need something like this as well. Then we have the Hardcore Cultist. It's a 3 mana, 1 frost rune minion, 2 attack, 1 health, undead. Battle Cry, deal 2 damage. Finale to all enemies. So this is pretty interesting. They did showcase a little bit of a clip playing 1 Hardcore Cultist that sent 2 damage somewhere, wherever you want it to, and then they showed a second cultist being played that was played for Finale, and then it did a 2 damage AoE to everything. Now, because this says enemies, it does include the hero's face, so your opponent's face also will take that 2 damage. Seems pretty sweet. I honestly kind of like this. The Finale is probably where you're really going to want to actually use this if you're paying 3 mana for it, but having that flexibility seems pretty nice. Then getting into Demon Hunter, we have Taste of Chaos, a 1 mana Fel spell, deal 2 damage to a minion, specified minion there, and Finale, discover a Fel spell. Honestly, pretty solid. We've seen spells like this get used a lot in other classes. A cheap, just potential removal, and potential upside as well. Discovering a Fel spell seems pretty good. And we have Guitar Soloist, a 5 mana 4/3 battle cry. If you control no other minions, draw a spell, a minion, and a weapon. Okay. Pretty interesting. I think this one, to me, kind of feels like maybe the top-ish end of a really aggressive deck, where maybe you'd want to do that. Maybe if you're really running a certain weapon, you could use this even in a bit of a slower deck. I mean, honestly, even just playing this to get like a spell and a minion, pretty good. I think that we've seen some similar stuff. I don't like the stats on this, but things like tutoring a specific thing have always been at least somewhat decent. And you get a body with it, so seems okay. The big downside is not controlling other minions. And that's where I think, honestly, the biggest downside is, even more so than the stat line, is that you have to have no other minions. So honestly, because of that, I don't actually know if this gets tons of play. I'm really hesitant on this one. I think if it either wasn't a soloist or if it had maybe slightly better stats, it would be better. But maybe Demon Hunter really wants the draw and this is just kind of the only option. But I'm not a huge fan of this one. Then for Druid, we have the legendary spell here, Rhythm and Roots. It's a 4 mana legendary nature spell. Choose one secretly. Summon 3 5/5 ancients in 2 turns. Or 8/8 giants in 4 turns. So that's pretty sweet. You get 3 5/5s or 3 8/8s. It's just a matter of how long you want to wait for them. If you go for the bigger things, you have to wait longer, but you're going to get 3 bodies out of this regardless, whether it's 2 turns from now or 4 turns. The fact that it's secret is also kind of interesting. I think we have seen an effect like that before, and oftentimes it was pretty easy to tell which one the opponent may have wanted to choose. So I could definitely see that here. And also, maybe people don't want to wait a couple of turns for these. They don't have rush or anything like that. There's not like that immediate board impact other than them just being available on that turn, which is the case that we have kind of seen with like dormant minions. I would say Wild Seeds specifically is that having those minions then wake up, you now have something you could target with a spell or give rush to or something like that. So maybe there is something here, but I am a little bit hesitant on this one because I don't feel like those really impact the board. So, and the other Druid card we have is Harmonic Mood, a 2-mana spell. Give your hero +2 attack this turn, gain 4 armor. And then it is a harmonic, so it does switch to the dissonant mood, which is then give your hero +4 attack this turn and gain 2 armor. Seems pretty flexible. I love the artwork on these, how first is like day with a rainbow, and then the second one is night. Really gorgeous artwork. But I think these are pretty flexible. I like a lot of the harmonic spells. I think that they are pretty great. 2 mana for attack and armor, pretty good, especially because it doesn't matter which one of the 2, it's still better than your hero power, so I like it. Then for Hunter, we have Thornmantle Musician, a 1-mana 1/3 Quillbore. With Finale, the next beast you summon gets +1/+1. Okay, Finale with this 1-mana card seems like it'd be pretty easy to pull off. And I kind of like this, that even if you drop this on turn 1, you're getting a finale effect, which seems kind of cool. The next beast that you summon, so it's not that you play, you maybe play a spell that summons something, and that would get the stats, so that seems pretty nice. And also, it doesn't say like this turn or next turn, it's just whenever you summon a beast. So even if that's 3 turns later, you will still get that effect. And honestly, I think I've said this a few times, but 1-mana 1/3s tend to be at least somewhat decent. There's a few that haven't really seen play, but this seems kind of neat. Then we have Harmonica Soloist, a 3-mana 4/2 with Battlecry. If you control no other minions, discover and cast a secret. I absolutely love this one. The ability to discover and cast it, and you get the body, is nutty. Basically, you're paying 3 mana to get 5 mana worth of stuff out on the board. It's also Discover. It doesn't just give you a random one, so you do at least have a choice. And with the core set that we've seen, we're getting a couple of some pretty great Hunter secrets into the pool as well. So I think this is absolutely fantastic. And then for Mage, we have Synthesize, a 1-mana spell. Add a random 1, 2, and 3 cost elemental to your hand. All right. I mean, you're getting 3 minions for the price of 1 mana. Yes, you'll have to pay the cost to play those elementals, but honestly, I think this is pretty solid for what it does. It's probably not going to go into like every single mage deck. You will want to have a purpose for this, but for what this does on its own, just as a standalone card, it's pretty great. Then we have Cosmic Keyboard, a 2-mana 0 attack 3 durability weapon. This is their instrument weapon. We have after you cast a spell, summon an elemental with stats equal to its cost. Lose 1 durability. So this is really probably going to benefit more from playing bigger cost spells, higher cost spells to get bigger stats for that elemental body. It's kind of nice because you can just get those stats and it's not going to be able to be like silenced, maybe frozen or something, but it's not an effect where your opponent can potentially just silence away the stats. The drawback that I see with this is really wanting to make sure that you're, I guess, getting good value from it And if there's some sort of synergy with elementals specifically, I think this will be great. Right now, I'm a little unsure of where this would go, or what things you actually really want to play with this, especially with some of the kind of big spell package rotating out of standard. For standard, I'm not completely sold on this one yet, but I do think there's potential. And then the last mage card is Hollow Technician. It's a 3-mana 3/4. It says, after any minion takes exactly 1 damage, destroy it. Wow. So this will affect your own minions as well, but I kind of like this a lot. I think it works really well with the hero power, especially being able to play this and just ping one of your opponent's minions down. And it seems unlikely that it's going to be very easy for your opponents to just have 1 damage, easily accessible. So I think there's potential. This is not really a card that you just want to like play on curve without doing anything else. You definitely want to use this in conjunction with something else. So a little unsure there, but I think it's a really cool card. Then going into Paladin, we have Disco Maul. It's a 2-mana, 2 attack, 2 durability weapon. This is their instrument weapon. With Death Rattle, give a random friendly minion +1/+1. And you have to play minions while equipped to improve that. So the Death Rattle will increase the stats that get put onto a minion based on how many minions you play while you have the weapon equipped. I love this card. This is so cool. And I really do miss the old Maul. I just love this one a lot. I think 2 mana seems pretty great for it. 2 attack, not a ton, but still seems pretty decent. And being able to play minions is something that Paladin tends to do anyways. So I really like this a lot, especially with the potential of being able to put a buff onto something that has Divine Shield. Yes, it's going to go onto a random minion, so you won't necessarily get to do that, but there is some potential for setup if you can maybe make some trades with minions on your board and then trigger the Death Rattle with this. So I like this one a lot. Then we have Boogie Down, a 3-mana holy spell. Summon 2 1-cost minions from your deck. And Finale, give them Taunt. This one, I'm not really sure on. Maybe this is gonna see play. I'm a little hesitant seeing this come into standard at the same time that the quest line is rotating out. So like the quest line would have loved to have this, I think. Maybe if there's something that you have that's 1 cost that you also want to give Taunt, sure. I mean, summoning the minions out of the deck for you is great, but also if you're playing Battlecry things, you don't really want to just pull those out of the deck. And I don't know. This one, I'm not really hyped on. Then we have Harmonic Disco, a 5-mana holy spell. Discover a 5-cost minion. Summon it with +1/+1. And it swaps each turn, so that dissonant effect is discover a 1-cost minion and then summon it with +5/+5. Don't know if I like this harmonic one as much as some of the other ones, but since you do get to discover, I like it more. Instead of it just giving you a random minion, at least you get to pick what it is. I don't know if you really would want to use this for the 1 cost that has +5/+5. Maybe if there's something that you can find with like Divine Shield or something like that, but I don't know. You're really going to have to get some sort of good value out of this. And also, this does not work with that Maul weapon. Because the Maul weapon, to improve it, you have to play the minions, not just summon it with something like this. So I'm a little less sold on this one. Then we have Harmonic Pop for Priest. It's a 6-mana holy spell. Deal 3 damage to all minions. Summon a 6/6 Pop Star. And that swaps each turn because it's a harmonic, so that dissonant, the other half, will be deal 6 damage to all minions and summon a 3/3 Pop Star. I think Priest would like to have both of these, as their own pieces and not have to alternate when this swaps. I'm not sure if this is quite as great even because it does swap, so you really don't get to like play it necessarily when you would want to, like something like Clean the Scene, where it would just, you can play it when you want and it will at least always clear everything that's 3 attack or less. Unless you've infused it, then it's 6. But this one, you don't have that same kind of option that you do with something like Clean the Scene. So I'm really curious on this one, but I think the potential to deal 3 to all minions or to deal 6 and then also get a body afterwards seems pretty good. Then for Rogue, we have Mixtape, a 1 mana spell. Discover a copy of a card your opponent played this game. Okay, well, I definitely can see this being played in some of those Thief Rogue decks, especially since you're going to get to discover. Depending on when you play this in the game, you might get some better options or not, especially if you're playing this much later in the game. Your opponent probably has played a lot of cards, so the Discover much less likely to give you something that you might want. But if you're just playing these for something to get cards from another class and then just have that added into your pool of things that you'll be able to like recast or replay or add to other effects, then this seems fine. And for Shaman, we have Melomania, a 0 mana spell. Each time you play a minion this turn, add a random shaman spell to your hand. Seems interesting. I don't know how much I like this. I'm not the biggest fan personally for at least like competitive decks in Standard of just adding like random stuff to your hand like this. It typically isn't really used all that much, and I feel like you would have to play this in a very specific deck. In terms of more competitive Standard decks, I don't see this one getting played. Then we have Saxophone Soloist. It's a 1 mana 1/2 Murloc. Battlecry, if you control no other minions, add a Saxophone Soloist to your hand. Okay, if you control no other minions, you get another one of these. This seems weird. It's pretty cheap. And I guess if you play this like on turn 1, then you're not going to have any other minions, so you can get an extra one. But the fact that it's actually just giving you another soloist back seems odd. Maybe it ends up being okay. You could play this at the beginning of your turn, almost like a reverse finale, right? Play this first and then fill in the rest of your turn with other, like using your mana for other minions. Just to kind of keep that value going. I don't think this is going to be played in like every Shaman deck. This is probably going to be pretty fringe. I feel like it's going to be fringe. Maybe you want it in a Murloc deck just to, again, kind of try to give you some of that value, but I'm not a big fan of this one. Then we have Chill Vibes, a 3 mana Frost spell. Restore 8 health. Finale, summon a 3/3 elemental with taunt. This one seems solid. This is, again, probably not one that you're going to play in like every single Shaman deck, but more mid-game Shamans or slower Shamans, probably definitely going to get some value from this. If you need something like the Frost mechanic and you need to play different spells or spell schools, this one seems pretty good. Moving into Warlock, we have Dirge of Despair, a 6 mana shadow spell. Deal 3 damage to a character. If that kills it, summon a demon from your deck. That could be a minion, your opponent's face, or even your own face. I don't think you want to pay 6 mana to deal 3 to your own face and then kill yourself to get the... That doesn't make sense. So you're probably never targeting this at your own face unless you really need to have some sort of mechanic where you're dealing damage to yourself, but you don't want to pay 6 for that. Dealing 3 damage to a character, you can send it to your opponent's face. If you're ending the game that way, great. But most likely you're sending this at a minion and then getting to summon a demon from the deck. Feels really expensive, honestly. And the demons, you're definitely going to have to build your deck in a very specific way. You're probably not going to want to have a bunch of cheap small minions, right? Small demons. You want that payoff of the big endgame demons. So I don't know. I really don't like this one. I think it's incredibly expensive. And the other Warlock card we have is Demonic Dynamics, a 3-mana fel spell. Discover 2 demons. Finale, give them +1/+2. Discovering 2 demons, you at least do get to discover. It's not just going to give you 2 random demons. But that does mean that discovering, then it's going to go into your hand. So you don't just get them on board immediately. I don't know. Maybe this has some value. You could be flexible in what demons you take if they're kind of larger demons. Seems good if you want like death rattle stuff. So maybe this one sees some play, but it feels a little weird because of the demon pool. I think some of the demons that you could discover are probably going to be pretty bad, and you're not going to want to do that. And then finally we have Kodohide Drumkit. This is the instrument weapon for warrior. It's a 4-mana, 3 attack, 2 durability. Death rattle, deal 1 damage to all minions. Gain armor while equipped to improve. Well, I think there are a ton of ways right now for warrior to get armor. Between their hero power and a lot of the different cards that generate armor. The 1-mana minion as well, that every time you get armor, you get another 2. So I think that would trigger this twice if you had that in play, which is pretty interesting. The downside to this, if you wanted to build a deck that has board, you don't want to trigger this death rattle while you have minions on the board because it does deal that damage to all minions. But this seems like a decent control tool. Maybe you want to trigger some sort of effects with dealing a little bit of damage to your own minions. I'm not super hyped on this one. It seems okay. Well, that should be all of the cards for Festival of Legends. Let me know what you think of these final revealed cards down below. And I can't wait to get started theory crafting. So thank you so much everyone for checking this out. If you missed any of the videos that I did reviewing the cards, you can check this playlist out here to find all of the videos for my review for Festival of Legends. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.